Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Prateek and you're watching Sports Question, where we just don't talk about sports on the surface, but in depth. हाँ, मेरा बैकग्राउंड में बहुत कुछ चीज़ है, इंटरेस्टिंग बैकग्राउंड आई नो, बट आज हमको इसी में मैनेज करना पड़ेगा. सो दिस वीडियो इज अबाउट द गेम वीक 2 इन प्रीमियर लीग एज वेल एज ला लीगा. हाँ, आई नो कि आई एम नॉट कवरिंग द अदर लीग्स, बट या for starters of this season, like till maybe game week 4 or 5, and after international break हम सारे लीग्स कवर करेंगे. बट तब तक please bear with me and we will be focusing on Premier League as well as La Liga to some extent. So game week 2 was a very interesting week for most of the teams, especially the big ones. बहुत टीम्स जीती, बहुत कन्विंसिंगली जीती, बहुत ही कन्विंसिंगली हारे भी. नो, मैन सिटी वॉज हार्म्ड इन दिस. एंड कुछ टीम्स का ड्रॉ भी हो गया, पता नहीं क्यों, बट द मैनचेस्टर क्लब्स लुक अ टैड बिट ऑफ रेल. मतलब यूनाइटेड तो बहुत टाइम से ऑफ रेल ही चल रही है, बट सिटी भी, उनके भी ट्रेन के पहिए निकलने स्टार्ट हो चुके हैं शायद. एंड दिस माइट बी द एंड ऑफ पेपेरा इन सिटी एज वेल. कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल है, बट हाँ, ये सच बात भी है कि देयर माइट बी अ चांस दैट दिस वुड बी द लास्ट सीजन ऑफ पेप in this magnificent career in Man City. Maybe this would be his last big thing before he moves on again. And maybe he'll take up the national job for Spain or any other country interested, because I mean, who won't take Pep Guardiola, the revolutionary in their footballing setup? But again, let's go one by one. So the first game of this game week was not played on the weekend, but before the weekend. That was on Friday night. It was between Chelsea and West Ham, and surprisingly, in the warm up, Cole Palmer खुद को इंजर्ड कर दिया था शायद, एंड वी डोंट नो हाउ टू व्हाट एक्सटेंट द इंजरी वाज, बट मे बी वो प्रिकॉशनरी मेजर के लिए उसने उसको गेम से बाहर रखा था. एंड एस्टावियो प्लेड इन हिज प्लेस. और जैसे स्टार्ट किया था, लुकास पकेटा स्कोर्ड अ ब्रिलियंट गोल from outside the box. Or yeah, the only thing that Chelsea lacks is a good goalkeeper, and Sanchez just seems so shaky at times. उसमें मतलब बहुत ही गलतियाँ करते भी है, and then it is not a good look for a goalkeeper, and certainly for someone who is playing at such a big level on in such a big team on such a big wage pay. So वही है, they need a good goalkeeper. Maybe next season जाते हुए they might go with Sanchez this whole season, पर उसके बाद I don't think he will play for Chelsea again. But उसके बाद it was all Chelsea. West Ham को कोई जवाब ही नहीं था, and West Ham looks like a team which might be contesting in relegation this point of time. और इस सीजन में भी maybe it is between West Ham and Wolves to some extent, एंड एवर्टन भी, बट उनके बारे में थोड़ा बात करेंगे, क्योंकि वो टीम तो कभी रेलीगेट होती नहीं है, हम सबको भी पता है. सो या, दैट वाज द गेम. चेल्सी won by 5 goals to 1, and surprisingly the first goal that was scored in this match was by the other team. So by trailing and then winning by 5 goals is amazing, literally amazing. And then it was, मतलब चेल्सी फैंस के तो पूरी रात हसीन गई होगी, considering the team won at night. And then the next day, the first match was a big one, because this was the match of the weekend. It was Man City versus Tottenham, and certainly Tottenham played exceptionally well. Ederson bench पे था, but still he wasn't in the team, which is kind of surprising. But जैसे rumors आ रहे that he will be leaving, it seems like Trafford might also be demoted to the third keeper spot at the bare minimum, maybe, क्योंकि जैसे अभी उसने खेला है the second goal, it was really really bad show for any keeper. और अगर हम बात करें तो this weekday was not that great for most keepers. वैसे एक कीपर को छोड़ के अगर हम वैसे बात करें तो, बट अदर देन दैट इट वाज नॉट दैट गुड weekend for keepers. And I think so James Trafford has a lot of potential, will play a key role in what City would look like in the future, but right now he's not looking good at all. वो मतलब शेकी लग रहा है, एंड देयर वाज अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स जो जब वो ही वॉज नॉट एबल टू हैंडल द प्रेशर, और ये अफेक्ट कर रहा था पूरे गेम में, बिकॉज द होल ऑफ सिटी वॉज नॉट लुकिंग गुड एट ऑल. एंड चर्की ऑल्सो वॉज हु हैड हाई एक्सपेक्टेशंस, बट he couldn't also deliver. और दो गेम ही हुए हैं, आई नो, एंड वन गेम was they played really well and got so much goals. They won by 4-0. पर तब भी टॉटनहैम were exceptionally, no doubt. थॉमस फ्रैंक के आते हैं, he they were great. They were absolutely smashing in their attack with Ange Postecoglou as well. But with Thomas Frank, I think वो बैलेंस आ चुका है, एंड देयर इज स्टेबिलिटी, एंड दैट इज़ वाई दे आर लुकिंग मच मोर थ्रेटनिंग एज कम्पेयर टू लास्ट सीजन. क्योंकि एंज के टाइम पे ही वॉज मोर फोकस्ड ऑन अटैक. ही बिल्ट अ ग्रेट अटैक, नॉट गोना लाई, बट Thomas Frank has also invested in his defense, which is a great thing. I don't think Spurs can win the Premier League this season, especially with Chelsea also competing so well. But I think top 4 तो finish कर ही देंगे, and they might have a great run in UCL as well. So then let's move on to the next match, which is Bournemouth versus Wolves. So Wolves, they got a red card in this whole match, and they look poised to be one of those teams competing for relegation this time. But they played really well, I feel so. Keeping Bournemouth to 1 goal is not that good of a result, but at the same time, if you're playing with 10 men in almost an hour, for an hour or 40 minutes, it's like big task. But and they really played well with their whole hearts, और उनका डिफेंस बहुत ही अच्छा था. देयर वर चांसेस फॉर देम एज वेल, 1 or 2, बट वो उस पर कैपिटलाइज नहीं कर पा रहे थे. Bournemouth, like how Bournemouth plays, they played really well. But yeah, this season would be a very big challenge for them, क्योंकि we all know कि कैसे goal scoring is really important nowadays, especially. और इसी के साथ let's move on. This was a game which might bore some, क्योंकि बहुत ही अर्ली गोल हो चुका था, एंड देन रेड कार्ड. सो वो सिर्फ उन्होंने शटर डाउन कर दिया था वुल्व्स ने. देन they didn't want to concede much. Well, let's go to the next match, which is Burnley and Sunderland. And as you all know, again a reminder, I am supporting Sunderland for this season. I'm backing them to do well and just stay in the league. But the show that they put, it was not good. I'm not gonna lie. Or they still have a positive goal difference, but at the same time, वही चीज़ है कि they need to be much more better. Burnley was an opposition who are in direct contention for relegation spot this season, and giving them a win is not looking good. Because now you have to beat someone who might be much more potent, who might be much more sharper in the league, but they, as we know, Premier League just gives up surprises. Our surprises are like really important in this league. सो होपफुली सनडरलैंड नेक्स्ट गेम वीक में जाते जाते बहुत अच्छा इम्प्रूव करेगी, एंड दे विल कम बैक. बर्नली, kudos to them that they played really well. They won fair and square. And then let's go to our next match, which was Brentford and Aston Villa. Brentford won 1-0, which was again a very good but a hard fought win, especially against a team like Villa. और जैसे last match हुआ था, how City played and they just dismantled Brentford. It looked good that they came back and they won the match. And overall it was a great game. Like दोनों teams chances बना रही थी, but at the same time there was just one which was clinical. It looks like a really boring match, but at the same time it is hard fought win for Brentford as well, because Aston Villa is a very tricky opponent. Then आते हैं the most, मतलब ये गेम वीक का सबसे वन साइडेड मैच. It was Arsenal versus Leeds United. And Arsenal, for that matter, played really well. Gyökeres got his goals, and finally, and the headline was not about Gyökeres as a whole, but more about Dawson, who made his debut in Premier League, being one of the youngest to ever do so at the age of 15. मतलब when I was 15, I just didn't know what to do with my life. वो अलग बात है कि आज भी मुझे नहीं पता, but that's the thing about life. And for some, you get success early on, but the thing is he needs to keep his head down and just play the game as it is, one game at a time. And hopefully he performs really well, because when you debut so young now, you have a lot of chances, you have a lot of aspirations, you मतलब बहुत कुछ तुम्हारे आप में रहता है. Plus with good things, bad things always follows. और यही चीज़ है. So just all the best to him, and hopefully he does well. Gyökeres scored one goal which was really great, and he did it on his own. And the second was a penalty where he did this hairstyle celebration. It was a straight jab at the haters, जिसने उसको गेम वीक 1 के बाद बहुत कुछ सुना दिया. एंड आई थिंक सो उसको सुनाना भी ज़रूरी था थोड़ा सा, बट या वो होता है. एंड Arsenal played really well. Julian Timber, bro, that guy just scored a goal, gave an assist to Saka की इंजरी भी हो चुकी है, एंड लेट्स सी कितनी गहरी इंजरी है, बिकॉज their season would depend on him, how he recovers, कैसा होगा, and overall कैसी shape बनेगी. And yeah, it's a good game for Arsenal except for the injury of Saka. वो एक नेगेटिव पॉइंट है, बट उसके अलावा बाकी सब तो ठीक ही था. Then let's go back. Then let's go to the next गेम विच इज क्रिस्टल पैलेस वर्सेस नॉटिंघम फॉरेस्ट. दो ऐसी टीम जिनके बीच में बहुत ही बैड ब्लड है, स्पेशली आफ्टर नॉटिंघम फॉरेस्ट रिप्लेस क्रिस्टल पैलेस विद द यूरोपा स्पॉट. वो उन्होंने उनको चिढ़ाया भी था बिफोर द गेम, एंड उनकी बस को भी हैवी सिक्योरिटी मिली थी नॉटिंघम फॉरेस्ट की, बिकॉज देयर वॉज चांसेस दैट क्रिस्टल पैलेस फैंस कुड डू समथिंग. एंड टू बी फेयर टू देम, it is actually disappointing for them, because due to some or other things, Nottingham Forest can't play in the Conference League. Sorry, Crystal Palace can't play in the Conference League, and Crystal Palace is now going into it. So it's a demotion with no particular causes. That shouldn't happen, and UEFA should take some or other things into consideration with the multiple clubs factor coming into play. But yeah, both the teams played really well, and it was a 1-1 draw, and I thought that it shouldn't be like that, but it happened. वो होता है. And I think both teams के लिए fair ही था result. फिर आते हैं एवर्टन और ब्राइटन पे, and Everton was playing in the new home ground, and yeah, playing at the new home ground, new stadium, it was really good to watch, because the way they played, they came back from last week's defeat, which was again they played with good flair, but at the same time 1-0 हार ही गए. और certainly इस सीजन तो वो लोग डिमोशन नहीं होंगे, वो they won't be demoted, and again it would be a mid-table clash for them. But Jack Grealish, coming on loan from Man City, gave 2 assists, which in itself is a great thing for everyone involved, because that guy has a lot of potential जो वो waste कर देता है doing other stuff off the field. But him coming back is a plus point, especially when England will play World Cup this year, and so many players would be in contention, and Jack Grealish can also make a shout for himself, which would be great क्योंकि Thomas Tuchel actually देख रहा होगा सबके performances, and he will be calling them up going into the World Cup next year, and hopefully Grealish keeps this form, and maybe he might get another chance at City, but let's see how he can turn to his advantage. And the last game of this weekend was between Fulham and Manchester United. Now, अगर हम मैनचेस्टर यूनाइटेड की बात करें, बिफोर दिस गेम Ruben Amorim had more games managed than he has points, which is really, really bad. That is apparently not 1 point per game. So it is not a good look for any manager, and considering जैसे turbulent things हो रही है, changes are coming and coming outgoing, hopefully he gets his act together. This team has potential, this team has a lot of flair, this team can do well and should do well. The clinicalness is missing. और स्टार्टिंग के मैच था, इट वॉज ब्रिलियंट. दे वर प्लेइंग विथ सो मच फ्लेयर, सो मच एनर्जी, सो मच पैशन. मतलब उनको जीतना था, कैसे भी जीतना था. एंड फाइनली बाय इन द सेकेंड हाफ दे स्कोर्ड. लेनी ओवर फाइनली स्कोरिंग फॉर मैनचेस्टर यूनाइटेड. वो भी ओन गोल ही काउंट हुआ था क्योंकि देयर वाज अ डिफ्लेक्शन एंड इट वेंट इन. बट देन फुलहैम मेड सम चेंजेस. एमित स्मिथ रो वाज who played for Arsenal academy wise and फिर later on professional wise भी, जिसको उन्होंने sold किया to Fulham, came on and scored against United, which was really, really bad to see considering 2 गेम हो चुके हैं and not a single clean sheet. और भाईंदर की मैं उतनी गलती नहीं मानूंगा because he went to collect the ball और फिर वो नहीं हो पाया and then it just went in. But जितने चांसेस मैनचेस्टर यूनाइटेड कर रही है, दे शुड हैव स्कोर्ड अनदर वन एंड दे शुड हैव वन दिस मैच, बट वो नहीं जीते. एंड दिस वाज एन अवे गेम ऑब्वियसली. सो फुलहैम at the bare minimum were trying to not lose, and they succeeded in doing so. And again, Manchester United have to get their act together because this is not the way that they should play, and going forward they need to be more stable, and they need to keep their mind in the game and play to the best of potentials. And hopefully they come back next game week. But yeah, again वही चीज़ है कि वो कैसे वापस आ जाएंगे, बट देखते हैं क्या होता है. And then today is Newcastle versus Liverpool, the big clash to get Isak. देखते हैं कौन जीतता है. आई थिंक लिवरपूल तो जीतनी चाहिए, बट अगर न्यूकासल जीती देन इट वुड बी इंटरेस्टिंग टू सी व्हाट Isak's stand would be against staying at Newcastle or going to Liverpool. It is a game. Who wins, they get Isak. तो अभी वही देखना है. And then let's go to La Liga. Barca played against Levante and they had a great remontada win, we can say, because they won trailing, and it was such a fun watch because tough होते हैं वो games. They were trailing by 2-0 and then they came back and scored 3-0, 3-2. It was like the Chelsea game, but इधर तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा था. And there is this theory, 2 गोल मार दिए then you have a huge possibility of losing rather than winning. Last goal own goal था. I think Levante played really, really well and they should have at least got a draw, but it is what it is. And Barca take 3 points again, and with this they go to they stay at the top of La Liga because उनका goal difference is much. They stay at second position. The first position is Villarreal, who apparently have 7 GD. So they are on a goal scoring spree. And not gonna lie, the table on La Liga looks really, really interesting because the first is Villarreal, the second is Barca, then there is Real Madrid who won their match Rodrigo played finally, and it was so good to watch. He was looking in shape, he was looking sharper than ever, he was looking like he can make those initial runs. But yeah, he had a good rating as well overall. Mbappe scored brace, Vini scored the final goal, Brahim got an assist, Guller got an assist, Vini had an excellent game, a goal and an assist. Coming from bench, he played really, really well. Obviously, कुछ तो उन्होंने बात की, but then Mbappe was like, चुप रहे भाई, कुछ मत बोल, नहीं तेरे को नहीं जाने, तेरे को ऐसा कुछ काम करके तुझे बैन होना है क्या? And then just like that, it was fun to watch. Overall, it was a great weekend for both the big Spanish team. The third big Spanish team in Spain still have some issues going on with them. Atletico Madrid is looking really, really vulnerable this season. Maybe it just been बस 2 ही गेम हुए, but still we can't talk much about that क्योंकि वैसा होता है big teams के साथ. But it's not looking good seriously, because pehla game you lost, and the second game you scored earlier, you had the best position, you had all the stats in your favor, and still you were able to draw the game with Elche. It is not looking good, because अगर हम बात करें, they made every stat, passing accuracy, passes, position, shots on target, shots, जितना कुछ है, everything Atletico is going really well, but they are still driven with Elche, which is making me question their finishing. Their clinicalness nahi thi, and it has been a very poor show for Atletico so far in the 2 matches they have played, and we have to see what can happen. It is still early, but hopefully वो come back करे, and then they also have the UCL spot which they will be playing at. And this was the roundup for 2 of the biggest leagues, the La Liga and Premier League. Hope you liked it. Do share your views. What do you think? आपकी टीम कैसी की? Do you think your team needs much more स्टेबिलिटी, कुछ ऐसा चेंजेस आने चाहिए जिसकी वजह से यू थिंक दैट दे कैन डू मच बेटर? और या, इट वाज अ गुड वीक फॉर ऑल ऑफ द लंदन क्लब्स, क्योंकि टॉप 3 में वही दिख रहे थे. आज लिवरपूल का मैच है, वो सब चेंज हो जाएगा. बट अगर हम ओवरऑल बात करें, देन इट इज़ लुकिंग गुड फॉर द टॉप 3 टीम्स, स्पेशली आर्सेनल, टॉटनहम. आर्सेनल इज ऑन टॉप. देखते कितने दिन तक रहते हैं, क्योंकि हर बार उनका वही होता है, we are on top, then we finish the full season in second, and then the Netflix documentary continues. Chelsea just splash money, और फिर ऐसा एक टाइम आ जाता है जब they decline so badly और कुछ ना कुछ हो जाता है. Then there is Tottenham. That's it. They are Tottenham. All of us know what do we think of Tottenham. And then Liverpool. City's downfall has been a bit of a concerning sign for all of the people involved, because that would be really interesting to see कि City कैसा comeback करती है. Although that squad is not at all bad, they have world class players, but yeah. And or City fans, another simple thing. Finally, Rodrigo वो unbeaten at home का record भी टूट गया. Congratulations. And with that, I'll be taking a leave. Let's talk tomorrow about the latest transfers and all of the other things like Liverpool and Newcastle. Or we will look up. I'll also try to do a video regarding the other leagues as well. Like Bundesliga started this week. Then there was Syria, which had really good matches, and that is more from this video. Hope you liked it. Subscribe, do comment about your teams, दूसरे टीम को